Time for convening having arrived. The Senate will come to order. Would ask that unauthorized visitors exit chamber at this time, and the Senate will come to order. Chair recognizes the distinguished rules chairman, the senator from the 53rd.
Mr. President, it's a beautiful day at our Capitol. A moment in history. 40 years ago, the senator from the 50th district shucked his first ear of corn. And today, the journal's been read and found to be correct.
He's been shucking corn ever since. That's good. I don't think he was paying attention, however. Is there objection dispensing with the reading of the journal? Reading of the journal is dispensed with. Is there objection? Confirmation of the journal? Chair is none, and the journal is confirmed. All senators having bills and resolutions to introduce, please bring them to the Secretary's desk at this time. First, reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions.
Senate Bill 417 by Senators Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 7 of Title
Economic Development.
Senate Bill 418 by Senators Thompson of the 14th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend
Health and Human Services.
Senate Bill 419 by Senator Williams of the 19th, a bill to be entitled an act.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 421 by Senator Butler of the 55th and others.
Slow go.
Senate Bill 422 by Senators Vanessa of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled.
Slow go general.
Senate Resolution 1043 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, a resolution creating the
Insurance and labor.
Senate Resolution 1044 by Senators Martin of the 9th and others, a resolution creating the Joint Craft Brewery Distillery.
Regulated industries.
Senate Resolution 1049 by Senators Orrock of the 36th and others, a resolution recognizing.
Natural resources.
Senate Resolution 1055 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd, a resolution creating the Joint Study Committee on the Expansion of Autism Insurance.
Insurance and labor.
Senate Resolution 1056 by Senator Rudd of the 33rd, a resolution creating the Senate Study Committee on the
Health and Human Services.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions.
House Bill 93 by Representative Pezzold of the 133rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 1 of Title 40 of the OCGA relating to general provisions for the identification
Public safety.
House Bill 768 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th and others, a bill to be entitled. House Bill 792 by Representative Brockway of the 102nd. Judiciary. House Bill 804 by Representative Mabry of the 63rd and others, a bill to
Special Judiciary.
House Bill 827 by Representative Holcomb of the 81st and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 851 by Representative Atwood of the 179th, a bill to be entitled
Special Judiciary.
House Bill 856 by Representative Fleming of the 121st and others, a bill to
Slow go general.
House Bill 900 by Representative Cooper of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 2 of Article.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 923 by Representative Quick of the 117th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to
Finance.
House Bill 940 by Representative Golick of the 40th and others, a bill to be entitled
Judiciary non-civil.
House Bill 944 by Representatives Gilligan of the 24th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 31 of the OCGA relating to
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 970 by Representatives Lumpson of the 12th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 25 of the
Public safety.
House Bill 975 by Representative Shaw of the 176 and others, a bill to be entitled.
Insurance and labor.
House Bill 1010 by Representatives Carson of the 46 and others, a bill to be entitled an act.
Slow go.
House Bill 1030 by Representatives Watson of the 172nd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend.
Agriculture.
House Bill 1038 by Representatives Rose of the 120th and others, a bill to be.
Slow go.
House Bill 1042 by Representatives Kelly of the 16th, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act to create a board.
Slow go.
House Bill 1044 by Representatives Colbert of the 174th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to repeal the.
Slow go.
House Bill 1047 by Representative Smith of the 70th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend an act
Slow go.
House Bill 1048 by Representatives Blackman of the 146 and others, a bill to be.
Slow go.
House Bill 1049 by Representative Stevens of the 160th.
Slow go.
House Bill 1050 by Representative Stevens of the 164th and others.
Slow go.
House Bill 1051 by Representative Stevens of the 164th and others. A bill to be entitled an act to amend an act.
Slow go.
House Resolution 1312 by Representative Sims of the 123rd and others. A resolution.
State institutions and properties.
Mr. President, that completes the order.
Secretary will read reports of standing committees.
Mr. President, the Senate Agriculture and Consumer Affairs Committee has had a consideration of following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Resolution 1018 do pass. House Bill 815 do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Wilkinson of the 50th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Retirement has had a consideration of following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 335 do pass. House Bill 690 do pass. House Bill 844 do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Huffstetler of the 52nd. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Banking and Financial Institutions has had a consideration of following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 811 do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Jones of the 25th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Transportation has had a consideration of following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Resolution 892 do pass. Senate Resolution 956 do pass. Senate Resolution 863 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 346 do pass. Senate Resolution 978 do pass. Senate Bill 383 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 420 do pass by substitute. Senator Lucas of the 26th has filed notice of a minority report on Senate Bill 420, respectfully submitted by Senator Williams of the 19th. Mr. President, the Senate Judiciary Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 531 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator McCune of the 29th. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil has had under consideration the following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 77 do pass by substitute. Senate Bill 332 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Stone of the 23rd. Mr. President, the Senate Government Oversight Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. Senate Bill 410 do pass. Senate Bill 327 do pass. Senate Bill 345 do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Harbin of the 16th. Mr. President, the Senate State and Local Governmental Operations Committee has had under consideration the following legislation and instructed me to report the same back to the Senate with the following recommendation. House Bill 925 do pass. House Bill 1018 do pass. House Bill 1021 do pass. House Bill 1023 do pass. Quickly submitted by Senator Albers of the 56th. Mr. President, that completes the reports.
Secretary will read bills for the second time.
Senate Bill 325 by Senator Hill of 32nd and others. Aviation provide legislative findings, definitions, preemptive of prohibitions. Georgia Unarmed Aircraft Systems Commission established. Senate Bill 328 by Senator Jones and the 10th and others. Education students who are subject to compulsory attendance should not be assigned to alternative education program for more than 2 semesters. Senate Bill 352 by Senator Unterman of the 45th and others. Selling and other trade practices provide consumer protection requirements for fantasy contest operators. Senate Bill 365 by Senator Schaefer of the 48th and others. License plates establish special license plates for the Georgia Pet Foundation. Senate Bill 369 by Senator Mullis of the 3rd and others. Fireworks revise the standard of compliance from explosion to ignition definitions. Senate Bill 374 by Senator Timmons of the 37th and others. Quality Basic Education Act. Temporary exemption financial reporting requirements for local school system federally authorized pilot program. Senate Bill 379 by Senator Gannon of the 47th and other. Sales and use tax provide for exemption for fire districts which have elected governing bodies and supported by ad valorem taxes. Senate Bill 388 by Senator Lucas of the 26th. Bona fide coin operated amusement machine prohibit the removal of a sticker without authorization. Senate Bill 404 by Senator Harper of the 7th and others. Public Safety Department off-duty use of motor vehicle by certain law enforcement officers revive provisions. Senate Resolution 942 by Senator Perrin of the 42nd and others. Senate Study Committee on Townships create. Senate Resolution 1027 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. Joint Music Economic Development Study Committee create. Senate Resolution 1028 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others. Senate Music Economic Development Study Committee create. Senate Resolution 1029 by Senator Huffstetler, 52nd and others. Health and Social Services Integrated Data Platform create. Joint Study Committee. House Bill 747 by Representatives Rogers of the 10th and others. Motor vehicles. Safe operation of motor carriers and commercial motor vehicles. Update reference date to federal regulations. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It is now time for the morning roll call. Time for the morning roll call. Are there any motions to excuse? Chair recognizes the single senator from the 15th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 5th.
5th, without objection, senator from the 5th will be excused. Chair recognizes the distinguished senator from Lowndes County, senator from the 8th.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to excuse the senator from the 9th.
The 9th, without objection, senator from the 9th will be excused. Chair recognizes senator from Cobb County, senator from the 37th.
Mr. President, I'd ask that the senator from the 40th be excused.
40th, without objection, senator from the 40th will be excused. Chair, senator from the 33rd, you recognized. You're always quick on the draw to get your colleagues excused. You're doing a fine job.
Appreciate it, sir. Good morning, Mr. President. Would you please excuse my distinguished colleague from the 39th for business outside the chamber?
39th.
Yes, sir.
The problem is the senator from the 39th is present. And all those flattering adjectives you were using to describe him sometimes may be in question, you know. Oh, no, just teasing. Secretary will call the roll of senators. Please signify your presence by voting the yea switch. Secretary will unlock the machine. It's no big deal. It's now time for our morning devotion. Would ask that all senators please take your seats. Cease all audible conversation as we are beginning to prepare the chamber for our morning devotion. Senators, please take your seats. It is now my distinct honor to recognize the senator from the 55th for the purpose of leading us in our pledge and introducing our chaplain of the day. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. Follow me on the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Georgia flag.
I pledge allegiance to the Georgia flag and to the principles for which it stands, wisdom, justice, and moderation.
Good morning, everyone. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Kevin B. Lee. Dr. Lee is a senior pastor at Berean Christian Church in Gwinnett County. He received his Master of Religion Education and Masters of Divinity from Southwestern Theological Seminary in Fort Worth, Texas. Pastor Lee has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Criminal Justice from Langston University in Langston, Oklahoma. Pastor Lee has also earned a Doctorate of Ministry degree from United Theological Seminary in Dayton, Ohio. Pastor Lee's discernment has led him to focus on empowering and training adult leaders to effectively work with children and youth. Pastor Lee served as the associate pastor at Berean Christian Church in Stone Mountain, Georgia for 3 years, and served as the youth pastor for 9 years. Pastor Lee is the author of 4 books, Putting the Pieces Together, Making the Pieces Fit, Teaching Pieces to the Puzzle, and Practical Pieces to the Puzzle. Pastor Kevin B. Lee is the founder of KBL Ministries, which aims to enhance parenting skills, empower adult leaders with creative teaching, and teaches the young generation to live victoriously spirit-filled lives. He's married and has 2 children and 2 grandchildren, Benjamin and Caleb. Please welcome Dr. Kevin B. Lee. Now, many of you might look at him and say, I know him, but he's the brother to my pastor in Stone Mountain. Thank you.
Good morning. Good morning. What a joy it is to come and to share with you. What a joy it is to get up this morning on this side of heaven, being able to make decisions and to be able to walk in the profession and the calling in which God has called me to do. Thank you, Senator Gloria Butler, for encouraging me to come and to share. And to all of you, what a special moment in my life just to stand before you and share my convictions. Appreciate what you all do to make this world a better place, to make our city, to make our state, to make this country, to make people's lives better. And we know everybody has problems. Everybody have problems. We got them at home. We got them, at our jobs. We got them on the highway. We even got them at church, unfortunately. We got problems. I remember this fellow one time, he was looking for a job. Economy was bad, looking for a job. And he looked in the paper and found out that they were hiring at the zoo. So he went in and put in the application, and they said, we'll hire you. And his job was to just simply be a monkey. He had to put on a monkey suit. He had to act like a monkey, talk like a monkey, walk like a monkey. Only thing he couldn't do, he could never speak in English, never could say anything, never be out of character. And so he used to swing around at the zoo. He used to walk around like the zoo. He used to talk like he was a monkey. Played his character well until one day he fell into a lion's den. And when he fell into this lion's den, this lion was coming over towards him. And he began to pray, please don't eat me, please don't eat me. He began to say out loud, please don't eat me, please don't eat me. And when the lion got close to him, the lion said, would you be quiet or be silent before we both lose our jobs? You know, it's amazing. Sometimes we think we're the only one going through what we're going through. And here this fellow thought that he was the only one going through, he's going through. There are a lot of people who go through what they go through. And we're thankful that you have a call on your life. You have power in your hand and your heart to make decisions that affect other people's day-to-day lifestyle. I encourage you with this scripture, Psalms 121, 1 and 2. That's been one of my favorites down through the years. I will lift up my eyes to the hills from whence cometh my help, because my help comes from the Lord. Boy, you just can't beat that. Lift up your eyes to the hills from whence cometh your help. Our help comes from the Lord, who created the heavens and the earth. Boy, that scripture has helped me down through the years. And as you have to make decisions, as you have to interact with people and others, I encourage you, look to the hills, look for help. Sometimes we think we got all the help we need, but I'm discovering at 56 years old now, just turned 56 just about a week ago, that the more I look to the hills, the more successful I am. Hey, I was blessed again to come here. I was so excited about coming here, I accidentally brought in some of my cologne. I didn't mean that, but I brought in some of my cologne. And it reminded me back in the day how I used to use my brute to try to catch women. You know what I'm talking about, my brute. Anybody remember brute back in the day? Back in the day, the old brute, And I remember I had some brute one time. I went to this party, and I didn't have time to shower before I went to the party. And so I just sprinkled myself, smothered myself with brute. And while I was at the party, folk began to say, somebody's smelling here, somebody's smelling here. And I kept saying, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, it wasn't me, because I had sprinkled myself, doused myself with brute. And finally, my friends came up and asked me, Kevin, did you shower before coming to the party? I said, no, I didn't get a chance to, but I used my old brute. They said, well, Kevin, you're the one who's thinking up the place, thinking up the place. You're the one, you know what I mean? Well, I said that share with you. There's another favorite Bible verse of mine in Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1. It says, be imitators of God, dear children. Love one another like Christ loved you. And he became a sweet-smelling aroma for us. Hey, as you make decisions, I encourage you, make decisions where people be able to say, there are decisions that impact my life, that make my life better. You know, my goal in life is to make life better for everybody, not just in my church, but outside of my church. Everywhere I go, I want to be a witness. I want to be a sweet-smelling aroma. I pray that I leave this place, I'll leave a little fragrance with you. But it's not working well today. But I encourage you to be a sweet-smelling aroma. Let's have a word of prayer. Father, we thank you for this morning. Thank you for the power in our hands, in our minds, in our heart. You know decisions that have to be made today that affect the lives of so many people. Oh God, help us to look to the hills from cometh our help. Oh God, help us to be imitators of you, God, and walk in love. Thank you for Jesus being a sweet Savior, sacrifice, and help us to have that same type of aroma in our lives. We love you, and we thank you for the decisions and discussions that will take place today. In your Son's name, we pray. Amen.
we have some special guests we would like to recognize on the Senate floor. And to do so, the Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 898 by Senators Harper the 7th, Gannon the 47th, Lagan Jr. the 3rd, Jeffries of the 17th, Hill of the 4th, and others. A resolution recognizing and commending the South Georgia North Florida Fire Initiative upon being honored with the 2015 National Pulaski Award and for other purposes. Whereas the South Georgia North Florida Fire Initiative has earned the 2015 National Pulaski Award for its collaborative work with private landowners and federal and state agencies, which has resulted in exceptional partnerships in wildland fire management and serves as a model to inspire and form similar relationships nationwide. And whereas through the hard work of their member organizations, agencies, and individuals, the South Georgia North Florida Fire Initiative has brought this award to Georgia for the 3rd time in a decade. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend the South Georgia North Florida Fire Initiative for its work and congratulate it upon being honored with the 2015 National Pulaski Award. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair is none, and the resolution is adopted. It's great to have such a distinguished group that is with us today, and to recognize our special guests, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a great honor that we're able to recognize these folks behind me and all the work that they do down in our state, especially down in my part of the world, down in southeast Georgia. But for the 2nd time in 10 years, the South Georgia North Florida are being recognized by the National Interagency Fire Center for their outstanding work in wildlife fire management by receiving the Pulaski Award, which is right here to my left. This is the 2nd time that they have received that. And this initiative is made up of a collection of organizations and private landowners, including the Georgia Forestry Commission, the Florida Forestry Service, the U.S. Forest Service, the Osceola National Forest, the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge, and the Greater Okefenokee Association of Landowners. This is a great honor for the individuals in our state, especially our Forestry Commission and all those who help protect our lands and our natural resources and our forestry. And behind us, we have the director of the Georgia Forestry Commission, Mr. Robert Ferris, and we have Mr. Michael Lusk with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, Mr. Jim Carls with the Florida Forestry Service, Mr. Jim Barrett with the Langdale Company, and also Mr. Gary Ingram with the National Park Service. So y'all join me in welcoming them and also the individuals in the gallery who are here with us in recognition of this award. If you're here with this, please stand up to be recognized so we can recognize you as well. And I'm going to ask our director of the Forestry Service to come forward and bring a few remarks.
Thank you, Senator Harper, and I just wanted to thank the Senate for recognizing this fine group, and I just wanted to reiterate what a tremendous honor it is to be nationally recognized with the work that this group of folks are doing. Not a single one of our organizations has the resources to cover the worst case situations. We depend on each other strongly, and the model that we've got going here in South Georgia and North Florida is actually looked at and recognized across this country, and across the country other groups are trying to duplicate the collaborative efforts we have here. So thanks to the Senate, thanks to all of our cooperators in pulling this together, and give you an idea of how big and important this is. We even managed to get the state forester out of Florida to drive way up here and through Atlanta to join us today. So thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Well done. Well done. We're going to do a picture down there, guys. So.
Got it? We don't want you to get a hernia.
It's as big as I am.
my coach.
Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 867 by Senators Hill of the 6th, Hill of the 32nd, Mullis of the 53rd, and Jones of the 25th, a resolution recognizing and commending the Westminster Schools varsity football team and for other purposes. Whereas the Westminster Schools varsity football team, located in Atlanta, Georgia, ended a historic 11-4 season, securing the 2015 Class 3A state championship. And whereas the team was supported by the strong leadership of head coach Jerry Romberg, the winningest head football coach in the history of Westminster. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend the Westminster Schools varsity football team for winning the 2015 Class 3A state championship and express their most sincere best wishes for continued success. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair is none. The resolution is adopted. It's always great to have our champions present with us in the Senate and to recognize this distinguished group. I call upon the senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's truly an honor to get to be before you with my alma mater behind me, representatives of that great institution, Westminster. We won a state championship this year, and very proud of the heritage and the coaching of Coach Jerry Romberg. That he was in his first year of coaching when I was a freshman, so he was also my high school football coach, and just a great man. And you know, we're all in here. As senators, there's something that inspired us to run and to continue to serve our communities down here in the state Senate. And I'll tell you, for me, it was my military service. But I would not have been able to go and be in the military if it had not been for my high school football experience. And so I'll always be grateful to Coach Jerry Romberg. And I have behind me, too, the captains of that football team. As the president pointed out, they seem to be growing them a little bit bigger now than they used to. But we also have our assistant coaches over here on the side. So just ask you to give the Westminster football team, AAA state champions, a warm welcome for their presence. But I do want to call upon Coach Jerry Romberg to say a few words, and just want to continue to encourage him and challenge him to go get a second and a third state championship for Westminster. But I call upon Jerry Romberg.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senator Hill, it's a privilege and honor to be here today, and we couldn't have done it without some of our coaching staff that is to my right here and our team captains behind me. I just want to thank the Westminster Schools and our athletic director, Mr. Tim Downs, who's over here, and our coaching staff. We had a great season this year that culminated with a state championship and in a very, very exciting game at the Georgia Dome. And we were behind 31-17 with under 5 minutes left in the game, and found a way to come out with a victory in overtime. So it was certainly an exciting game and a great finish to a great season. I've been the head coach at Westminster for 24 years. And just to let you know, Hunter Hill is probably one of the best football players I ever coached. So when he tells you that he was a really good athlete in high school, he's telling the truth. Thank you very much.
Secretary will read a resolution honoring our next guest. Secretary, read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 879, 880, and 881 by Senators Miller of the 40th and Martin of the 9th, a resolution recognizing and commending Justin Walters and for other purposes. Whereas Justin Walters has been selected as the state recipient of the Technical College System of Georgia's 2015 Exceptional Adult Georgian and Literacy Education Award, which recognizes adult learners in pursuit of excellence. And whereas Kristen Tetzlaff has been selected as the state recipient of the Technical College System of Georgia's 2015 Rick Perkins Award for Excellence in Technical Instruction. And whereas Stephanie Jackson is the state recipient of the Technical College System of Georgia 2015 Georgia Occupational Award of Leadership, which is the first program of its type in the nation to honor outstanding technical college students. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize and commend Justin Walters, Christian Tetzlaff, and Stephanie Jackson for their exceptional accomplishments and efforts. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolutions? The chair is none. The resolutions are adopted. It is great to recognize these wonderful individuals that are doing so much to change lives in our great state. And to speak to the resolution, I call upon the senator from the 27th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen of the Senate, today is a great day to celebrate the success of our Georgia's technical college system. First of all, we'd like to honor and recognize Stephanie Jackson, who is a 2015 state goal winner. First launched the 1971 goal focuses on student excellence and technical education by focusing on academic excellence and personal achievement. Goal winners represent a new image of Georgia Technical College. Students must recognize technical education's critical impact on Georgia's overall economic health, have a strong work ethic and dedicated sense of loyalty and healthy enthusiasm for promoting technical education in Georgia. Ms. Jackson was a graduate of 2015 Paralegal Studies program of Georgia Piedmont Technical College. She's also the Student of the Year. She spent 5 years as a self-employed writer and has authored publications such as This Is What It's Like to Be a Single Mom on Food Stamps, as well as 8 Lessons Every Newly Single Mom Should Learn. We'd also like to recognize Justin Walters, who is a 2015 State Eagle winner. Justin is also from Georgia Piedmont. He is an adult education, and he returned to school to get his GED as well as a certificate in welding in 2014. Upon achieving that, he went back to school to study early childhood care and education, and he plans on attending Georgia State University and ultimately experience the joys of teaching in his own classroom for special needs. And then lastly, I'd like to recognize Christian Tetzlaff, who is the 2015 State Rick Perkins Award winner. Christian has served as the Motorsports Vehicle Program Director on the Oakwood campus of Lanier Technical College since January of 2010. He's very passionate about his field and loves his students. This time I'd like to turn the time over to each of the award winners. And we'll start with Stephanie.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, members of the Senate. It's an honor to be here today to represent the Technical College System of Georgia. 3 years ago, my seemingly ideal life crumbled, and suddenly I found myself as an unemployed, undereducated, single welfare mom. Using resources like Complete College Georgia and the the Go Back Move Ahead websites, I found that I could make a real life change in the paralegal studies program at Georgia Piedmont Technical College in Clarkston. And by the spring of 2014, I was balancing 3 part-time jobs, 2 full-time boys, and a full-time class load. This time a year ago, I was in the middle of a 9-month internship with the ACLU of Georgia, and I was here at the Capitol working with many legislators from both sides of the aisle on a variety of issues. Within 2 weeks of graduating, I transferred to Mercer University, and I'm now the paralegal for the public safety section at the Office of the Attorney General of Georgia. There's nothing wrong with technical education. And in fact, there's a lot right with technical education. Programs like Move On When Ready, college and career academies, adult education, and the specialized programs that TCSG crafts to meet the needs of their local communities provide opportunity and improvement for millions of Georgians each year. So thank you for your support of the Technical College System of Georgia. We have abundant resources in the state of Georgia, and technical education is uniquely primed to offer cost-effective and practical education that can improve lives in the same way it changed mine. Thank you.
Good evening. It is a great honor to be here. My name is Justin Walters, and I'm very proud to say that I'm an adult education graduate. As with many, it came with a lot of obstacles. And Stephanie just posed a question. Justin, could you see yourself here 2 years ago? No, I couldn't see myself two years ago, because where I'm from, we don't get these opportunities. So growing up, it was very rough. And at the age of 15, I decided to drop out of high school. Well, I moved to Georgia, and at that point, I realized that there were no opportunities without an education. So I decided to go back to school at Georgia Piedmont Technical College, and I received my GED. I'll be graduating this May. I'll be the first male in my family to graduate college. Thank you guys for having me here, and thanks for supporting adult education.
All right. Thank you, Lieutenant Governor, Mr. President, and members of the Senate. It's an honor to be here today representing Technical College System of Georgia. And I'll share a little bit about my story and how I got to be involved with the system. And it actually begins way back with my father. 52 years ago, a 19-year-old East German immigrant who escaped out of East Germany came to this country with nothing, no food, no home, no money, no friends, couldn't even speak English. But he did have one thing of value, and that one thing of value he had was his skill as a welder. And he used that one single technical skill to change his whole life, create his life in the United States, and give me mine. And because of that, that's why I got involved with the Technical College System of Georgia. And the examples of these two wonderful students right behind me is a real show of what we do, because what we do in the system of Technical College System of Georgia is not just teach students to get jobs. What we do is we change their lives. And these two are the best examples that we have to show of today. And to leave with one final nugget of information here, every time we're not just changing this generation of students' lives, we're changing each and every generation of students' lives after that. Because every time we produce one graduate, I can guarantee you that their kids are going to produce college graduates too. So that's why I'm here representing the Technical College System of Georgia, and I do want to thank each and every one of you for all the things that you do for our system and how important it is for the state of Georgia to change these lives and make us all better. Thanks.
Let me have the Senate's attention for just a moment. All senators, let me have your attention for just 1 second. The chamber is getting a little bit quiet or a little bit loud during our presentations. Please keep your voice to a whisper as you are speaking to people. You would not believe how it radiates up here, so keep it to a whisper. Otherwise, I'm going to have to gavel you down. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 825 by Senators James of the 35th and Rhett of the 33rd, a resolution recognizing Reverend Yvonne Shaw and for other purposes. Whereas academically motivated, she has obtained her Bachelor of Science, Master's of Science, and a Doctor of Philosophy. And whereas passionate about helping others, she is a current volunteer chaplain at Howard University and previously volunteered with the Butler Street YMCA, Girl Scouts of America, and Vacation Bible School. And whereas it is abundantly fitting that we recognize this exemplary individual. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize Reverend Yvonne Shaw for her contribution to the state of Georgia and wish her continued health and happiness. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. To recognize our special guest and speak to the resolution, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 35th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, we offer ourselves to serve and we run for office, and all of you in this room won. And there are people who really help us because government can't be everything to everybody. We have to have those people who are concerned citizens, who offer themselves to serve as volunteers in the community or as those who raise encourage the children and work hard in the community. I have the honor of recognizing Reverend Dr. Yvonne Shaw, who is a community leader and a strong volunteer for over 23 years of service to various organizations. Dr. Shaw's educational background includes a BS, a MS, and a PhD, all from Howard University. She is a native Atlantan, and we were in the Girl Scouts together and in the Girls Club together. So I know we started early working to make things better in our communities. So I'm really honored. She's also the chaplain of Howard University's athletic department. And it's a real pleasure to add to all her other credits this resolution, because she's received awards like the Drum Major for Justice, the Chief Cochran and Atlanta Fire and Rescue Team Award, Outstanding Service Fireman Medallion, the Phoenix Award. The City of Atlanta's Bill Campbell gave her a special award. SCLC Women also, the Spelman College Project Award, and she's known mostly for her Southwest Atlanta West End Christmas Parade. She's the coordinator and the organizer, and she will call you 100 times to make sure you're gonna be in that parade. And it's a beautiful parade that starts at West End and goes all the way down to 285 on Cascade. So she also received the 2015 award, the Key of the City, from the Honorable Caesar Mitchell of Atlanta. So at this time, please, Dr. Shaw, I am so honored and privileged to present to you this award, which is a resolution from the State Senate. Thank you. Thank you. You want to say something real quick?
Okay. Good morning. Thank you for this distinguished honor. I would like to thank the Honorable Governor Deal, the Honorable Lieutenant Governor Cagle, the Honorable Senator Donzella James, and this distinguished body of leaders, and for all that you do for the great state of Georgia. Can't live in a better state, right? So I wanted to mention just one or two things from my experience in the community. And I would just like to say, when I was caregiving for my dad with Alzheimer's, after he worked at Georgia Tech 39 years, and I said, Lord, I need to do something with the community. And so this is how I started getting active in the community more and more. And we help the needy, we help the less fortunate, we recognize public safety. And I just know that if you go out and help someone, that makes it easier for you. And you have to help the leaders. We have to help you all you need help. And on that note, I would like to leave a poem by Mother Teresa. The poem is entitled, Anyway. People are often unreasonable, irrational, and self-centered. Be kind anyway. Forgive them anyway. If you are kind, people may accuse you of selfish motives. Be kind anyway. If you are successful, as most of these leaders here are today, you all are successful. If you are successful, you will win some unfaithful friends and some genuine enemies. Succeed anyway. If you are honest, sincere, people may deceive you. Be honest and sincere anyway. If you find serenity and happiness, others may be jealous. Be happy anyway. The good that you do today will often be forgotten. Do good anyway. Give the best that you have, and it may never be enough. Give your best anyway. In the final analysis, it is between you and God. It was never between you and them. Anyway, thank you.
Anyway, that's right. Let's do a
picture on the steps here. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 968 by Senators Black of the 8th, Burke of the 11th, Ligon Jr. of the 3rd, Harper of the 7th, and Kirk of the 13th. A resolution recognizing February 24th, 2016 as Valdosta State University Day at the Capitol and commending student leaders at Valdosta State University and for other purposes. Whereas Valdosta State University has been serving the citizens of South Georgia for more than 100 years and continues to be dedicated to educating leaders for the 21st century. And whereas Valdosta State University serves as the Regional Center for the Arts in South Georgia, providing 25 years of professional classical music through the Valdosta Symphony Orchestra and professional theater performances through Peach State Summer Theater. And whereas the Valdosta State University Blazers boast an impressive 7 NCAA Division II national championships in baseball, men's tennis, softball, and football. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize February 24th, 2016 as Valdosta State University Day at the Capitol and commend student leaders at Valdosta State University for their commitment to and advocacy for the causes of their institution. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair hears none. The resolution is adopted. We really, really value and appreciate Valdosta State and the great institution that it is, along with the wonderful championships that they have brought to our state as well, and obviously having a colleague of ours that now is there leading the organization is a real highlight as well. It's my honor now to call upon the senator from the 8th to speak to the resolution and recognize our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's a great pleasure to bring to you today my folks from down in Valdosta State, in particular our interim president, our former senator colleague here, that I haven't by real good word from a little birdie that interim title is going to soon be removed, and so we're really looking forward to that. It's got a great institution. Not only that, we're honored to have our new football coach, Governor Bell, that's just been brought on board. And I got to talk to you a little bit about our football program down there. You know, we take football pretty serious down in that area of the state. And wise sports fans all know that the best college football is played by folks wearing the red and black. But the truth is that the boys wearing red and black that's had 3 national championships in the last 12 years played behind the mascot of the Blazers. And at this time, I'm going to call on our president to bring you some words.
Thank you, Governor and Senator. It is wonderful to be back in the Senate chamber. I think this is the first time I've had that privilege since leaving a couple of years ago, but it's great to be back with many of my Senate colleagues and new friends, and thank you today for your service to the state of Georgia. It's been a wonderful experience since July 1 to be a part of the community that is Valdosta State University. It's a wonderful institution of 11,300 students, about 550 faculty members, another 860 staff members. We employ about 600 students every year. It's a wonderful institution that has been a part for many years of providing nurses for our hospitals in South Georgia and our doctor's offices. We provide teachers coming out of our School of Education that are in classrooms all across this state. We provide business leaders through our School of Business who are a part of businesses throughout the state as well. And as was just referenced, we're a school that we like to win. We've had 7 national championships, including 3 in football in just the last 12 years. It's a great institution that has an enormous impact across our state and our region, but particularly in South Georgia, we know that our economic impact is more than $350 million annually. Our students spend more than $177 million annually in Valdosta and the area. We thank you for your support for higher education in Georgia. We believe that our public institutions of higher education are indeed the crown jewels of our state. We are there to foster economic development, to provide a workforce for industry, and we are there to improve the lives of the people that we serve. We like to say at Valdosta State University that we will be the intellectual, the cultural, and the economic center of our region, and that is what we're committed to do. Let me just say that I'm glad to have Catherine here with me today. Many of you know her. We're very pleased to have Coach Kerwin Bell, who's just joined us as our new head football coach. Tracy Martin, who's our Vice President for Business and Administration, is here. And Colonel Jeff Hooks, who's the head of our Alumni Association, one of our distinguished alums, who is the chief officer of the Marine Logistics Center in Albany. We're glad to have him here today, as well as a number in the gallery. If you would stand, including our mascot Blaze is up there. So thank you for letting us be here, and thank you for your support of Valdosta State University.
I was wondering whose mascot that was. We had the firefighters in earlier. Yeah. I thought maybe that was it. Secretary will read another resolution as we honor some special guests.
Senate Resolution 877 by Senator Gooch of the 51st, a resolution recognizing and commending White County and for other purposes. Whereas White County is home to more state parks than any other county in Georgia. And whereas White County has a nationally recognized mountain biking trail located at Unicoi State Park and Adventure Lodge. And whereas it has Mount Una, one of the most recognizable peaks and rock faces in Georgia. And whereas White County is home to 3 wildlife management areas which all provide hunting, fishing, birdwatching, field trail access, and interpretive trail opportunities. And whereas White County is home to over 10 waterfalls with developed and managed hiking trails. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body commend White County and extend to White County its commendation for the county's many important contributions to its community and the state of Georgia. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? The chair is none. The resolution is adopted. White County is indeed a special place, and we are honored to have them in our chamber today and recognizing the great things that are going on in this community. To do so, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 51st to recognize our special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, senators. If you love the outdoors as much as I do, you'll love White County, Georgia. It's a great place up in North Georgia. If you've heard of areas like Babyland General, you've heard of the Chattahoochee River, of course. Chattahoochee River starts in White County. We've got places like Smith Gall Woods State Park, Unicoi State Park. You can go tubing down the Chattahoochee through downtown Helen on the weekends. It's a great place to come and spend time with your family and friends. It's a great place to get out and enjoy the outdoors. Places like Yona Mountain, the Appalachian Trail. There's so many things. I could go on and on and on. But we have a lot of visitors up in the gallery from White County. If you would, all of you White County folks stand up and be recognized. Great to have you here, and we're promoting White County today as Georgia's outdoor adventure destination. And to speak on behalf of the leaders that are behind me, we have Chairman Travis Turner, Commissioner Terry Goodger, Commissioner Edwin Nix, City Councilwoman Annie Sutton, and the Mayor of Helen, Mr. Fred Garman. And we're going to ask Commission Chairman Travis Turner if he would come forward and say a few words. Commissioner.
Distinguished members of the Senate, thank you for the opportunity for allowing us to come before you today. We do our best to stress our outdoor activities in White County, as well as our quality of life. We feel strongly that you hear the term, we live in God's country. We believe that with all of our heart. That's why we chose to hang our hat where we do. When you get out of session, please feel free to come up and visit with us. We do appreciate Senator Gooch for taking his time and representing us. I could make some additional comments, but that wouldn't be appropriate here in this place. So anyway, I appreciate it. Have a great day, and thank you.
Senator from the 49th, come down and recognize.
Thank you, Mr. President. It gives me great pleasure to introduce a group from Gainesville, Georgia. Actually, they're from all over Georgia. The students, the inaugural class from Bernal University, the physical therapy program, are here visiting the Capitol today. We've got a group of them down here in the corner. Y'all wave your hands. There we go. There we go. And a group in the balcony in the gallery. Y'all stand up. Stand up. There we go. Give them a warm Senate welcome. Very nice. Very nice. Thank y'all very much for being here today. We're very proud of what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Secretary will read a resolution.
Senate Resolution 967 by Senators Harbison of the 15th and McCoon of the 29th, the resolution recognizing February 24th, 2016 as Columbus Day at the state capitol and congratulating the Columbus region on its many outstanding accomplishments and for other purposes. Whereas the Columbus region of Georgia is known for its fantastic visitor attractions, expansive economic growth and development, and beautiful natural landscapes. And whereas the citizens of the Columbus region are justly proud of their community, its past, and its many contributions to the state, and it is only fitting and proper to recognize February 24th, 2016 as Columbus Day at the state capitol. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Senate that the members of this body recognize February 24th, 2016 as Columbus Day at the state capitol, congratulate the Columbus region on its many outstanding accomplishments, and wish it continued future success. Mr. President, that completes the order.
Is there objection to adoption of the resolution? Chairs none. The resolution is adopted. Yesterday we had Columbus State University present. Today we've got Columbus and the great leaders of the community present, and we are honored to welcome them to the chamber. To do that, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 15th to speak to the resolution and recognize our very special guest.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I take great pleasure this morning in recognizing some of our great leaders from that diamond in southwest Georgia, Columbus, and that area that sparkles and is indeed the spark plug for business and economic development in that particular region. We've come a long way, baby, and we're going to go further. So we're just honored to be here today. With me today is my colleague, the senator from the 29th, who is always up there helping us get things done in Columbus. We have with us today Mayor Teresa Tomlinson, the city manager, Isaiah Hughley, chamber president and CEO, Brian Anderson, Cedric Hill, chamber board chairman, raise your hand, Cedric, and Terry Smith, chairman of the Chamber's Governmental Affairs Committee. We all know Terry, we work with him every day. At the same time, I would like this opportunity to recognize our city manager as well, present him as well with a resolution for receiving the Pillars of Professional Management Award for 2015 from the GCCMA as well. So let's give our mayor a welcome as she comes forward and present.
Well, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, Senator Harbison, Senator McCoon, the great men and women of this chamber, it is my honor and privilege to be here with you this morning. Thank you for welcoming us to our Capitol. I bring greetings this morning on behalf of the 202,000 citizens of Muskogee County, Columbus, Georgia, the state's first consolidated government, on behalf of our 10 city councilors, and as you just heard, the city manager of the year, Mr. Isaiah Hughley. In Columbus, Georgia, we are home to AFLAC. We're home to Fort Benning, TSIS, Synovus, Carmike Theaters, and many, many others. We do have it going on in Columbus, Georgia. And if you get in the Chattahoochee River up there at Senator Gooch's White County, you're going to float right on down to Muskogee County, where we will introduce you to Class 3, Class 4, Class 5 Whitewater Rapids in what is the world's largest urban whitewater course. So we're actually here today to honor you and celebrate you for all you do for keeping Georgia's cities and communities first in mind as you pass the great laws of this state. And so we want to honor you tonight at a reception at the Freight Depot Room, 5 o'clock. Please do attend. Again, this is for you and we celebrate you. Thank you so much.
We would like to present the Doctor of the Day, and to do so, I call upon the distinguished senator from the 32nd.
Senators, it's my honor to present to you Dr. Ali Rahimi, I apologize. He lives in East Cobb, and he's a practicing cardiologist. And he works with Kaiser Permanente, which is having some tremendous success across metro Atlanta. Dr. Rahimi's probably graduated from every great institution of learning that renowned across this nation. First off, I have to mention Emory University, where he got his master's, of course. But he went to Florida State University, then he went to Emory, then he went to the Medical College of Georgia, then he went to Yale University for his residency, then he finished his fellowship at Harvard Medical School, and he is board certified in internal medicine and cardiology. And we're honored today to have Dr. Rahimi here, and if you would just extend to him a very warm Senate welcome, and thank you for living in our community and our state.
Indeed, it's a great honor and privilege to be before this body and to serve as your Doctor of the Day. On behalf of Kaiser Permanente and the Permanente Medical Group, we thank you for your service really to our patients. It's a privilege to wear this coat and to take care of our patients, and we really look forward to working together to continue to provide the best medicine for the members of this state and to continuing to advance healthcare. Thank you.
Awesome. Well done. Thank you. Let's get a picture right quick. Are there any unanimous consents? Chair recognizes Senator from the 8th. Senator from the 8th. 8th.
Mr. President, I ask that the rules be temporarily suspended till the resolution might be read for the first time and signed to committee.
Is there objection, a road naming resolution? Is there objection? Without objection, the rule will be suspended. Secretary will read.
Senate Resolution 1062 by Senator Black of the 8th and others, a resolution honoring the life of Mr. James Slayton J. Shaw and dedicating a road in his memory and for other purposes.
Transportation Committee. Are there any senators wishing to rise on a point of personal privilege? Chair recognizes Senator from the 43rd. 43rd.
Good morning, Mr. President and Senate colleagues. I rise today to recognize a very special group that's with us here today. And for those of us that aren't in this age group yet, we will be soon. That's our senior citizens. And I want to recognize our seniors from Rockdale County that are here with us in the gallery this morning. Thank you for joining us. I want to tell you there will be a couple of key legislative items before us this year that will focus solely on seniors. One of the most important is that they ask that the governor's addition of over $2 million in non-Medicaid home and community-based services which will help seniors remain at home and avoid nursing homes. This is a topic that's very important to our seniors and their families, and I ask that you look and consider that point. And I'd just like to thank again our seniors from Rockdale County, and I appreciate your support. I yield the well. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 52nd. 52nd on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. My purpose is twofold up here today. I do first want to recognize our physical therapists who are here at the Capitol today. We've got over 2,200 of them in the Capitol, and we want to recognize the hard work they do in this state. And as a fellow healthcare provider, I certainly appreciate their services. I also want to speak here in honor of Black History Month, and so I want to take this moment of personal privilege to draw attention to a remarkable Georgian, a man whose accomplishments merit our recognition and respect, and that's Dr. Lewis Sullivan. I've been privileged to be on panels with him and certainly consider him a friend. He was born right here in Atlanta, raised in Blakely, and he decided by the age of 5 that he would pursue a career in medicine. Over 75 years later, he's done that and much more. After an illustrious academic career studying at Morehouse College, Boston University, and Harvard Medical School, he would go on to teach at both Boston and Harvard, and he would also help found the Morehouse School of Medicine in 1975. For 2 decades, he served as the dean of the Morehouse School of Medicine, stopping only when he was approached by President George H.W. Bush, who asked Sullivan to serve as Secretary of Health and Human Services, a position the good doctor held from 1989 to 1993. He's a long-standing Republican, a tireless advocate of diversity, and for years he's devoted himself to the diversification of the medical profession, selecting the first female director of the National Institute of Health, the first female Surgeon General, and the first African-American Commissioner of the Social Security Administration. He, like myself, is a Republican who's working for health care solutions for our working poor. Beyond his work as dean, Dr. Sullivan has led the Sullivan Committee on Diversity and the Healthcare Workforce and the Sullivan Alliance to transform the healthcare professions. He was a founder of the Medical Association of South African Blacks. He served as a board member to 10 major corporations, including General Motors and 3M, as well as the Grady Hospital Board of Trustees, and he's the author of 2 books, The Morehouse Mystique, Becoming a Doctor at the Nation's Newest African American Medical School, and Breaking Ground, My Life in Medicine. I thank you for joining me in recognizing and honoring my friend, Dr. Sullivan, here today. He personifies all that the medical field and the Grand Old Party find virtuous, a dedication to liberty, public service, and a selflessness that I hope we emulate here in the chamber as we strive to do our best for the people of Georgia. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 56 on a point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I do not come up to this often to speak for points of personal privilege, but I do feel very passionate about an issue that I want to share with you today. We have grave concerns about how we improve the lives of Georgians all the time. People are trying to get to work, they're trying to get to their children's school, they're trying to make sporting events, and all the things that we hold to be true for our families and our companies. And to do that, we have to come up with smart and practical solutions because we do not have unlimited dollars to do that. For many decades, the area of town which I get to represent, North Fulton County, has paid an extraordinary amount of tax to the MARTA system and have had little or no results from that. There are some today that look to increase that again by another 0.5%. So let me take you with the math. Today we pay 1% on everything we buy in sales tax to MARTA. With House Bill 170 last year, we added the ability to increase taxes yet another 1%. Some want to take half of that and put it to MARTA, which means a combined 75% of the taxes would be used to help 3 to 4% of the people. Now, you would not make that investment in your home. You would not make that investment in your business. Now, do we need solutions? The answer is absolutely. And it starts with the increased capacity on our east-west connectors and up Georgia 400. And some plans are in place, and we need the process to work. Heavy rail is a 18th and 19th century solution, not to solve a 21st century problem. In fact, today, there are cars that are already dynamically talking to each other and are driverless. They will be mainstream in just the next few years that will help solve some of these problems. There's no silver bullet or one single answer. However, we do not need to go forward with an answer that will not make a meaningful impact in the lives of those families and businesses for the next 10 or 15 years, and heavy rail will not. But I also have a bigger issue to bring to your attention today. Did you know that the tax dollars you spend when you are here down at the Capitol, and part of that MARTA penny you pay, has paid for almost $220,000 worth of lobbyists this session. I want you to hear that again. The money you're spending on taxes right now that goes to MARTA is spending $220,000 on lobbyists this legislative session. And that translates into 88,000 fares of people who would take the MARTA transit system. You should be very alarmed and concerned by that. I know that I am. Voters are smart. When the time comes to them to bring a question for whether they want to invest in something, that question needs to be honest. It needs to be direct. It needs to provide them all the facts for them to make the right decision, the right way, and at the right time. I know when I got sworn into office, just like all of you, I put my hand down on the Bible first, and then I raised my right hand. I put my hand down on the Bible because I believed that God had called each one of us to do the right thing and be servant leaders. And to be servant leaders, we will be honest, we'll be truthful, and we'll do the right thing for those who sent us here. Please consider slowing down the train, if you will, and doing what's right for the people of Georgia. Thank you, Mr. President, and I yield the will.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 14th. Point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise today with a heavy heart, and I'd like to see if I can get my colleagues in the Senate to just listen closely. Many times we're down here fussing about various legislation and fighting over different things, but today I come to you with a heavy heart where our representative, a colleague of ours over in the House, Representative Bob Bryant, District 162 in Garden City, is fighting for his life. That's right, he's fighting for his life. He's in a hospital right now. They've had 3 opportunities to resuscitate him, and he's in critical care. I would ask, Mr. President, if we can just recognize a moment of silence for one of our colleagues as we're asking the Lord to restore him back to health.
Let us pray. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
Thank you, Senator. Chair recognizes Senator from the 20th. Point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues in the Senate, I want to recognize today the Perry Youth Leadership Group who is in the gallery, along with Perry City Councilman Robert Jones. I'm mighty glad to have them here as they are learning more about state government today, and these are the future leaders in our area. Welcome. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Senator on the 45th on the point of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. It seems like everybody's got an opinion this morning. I might have a little opinion too. I want to talk about buyer beware. Buyer beware of Senate Bill 330. I appreciate the senator from the 21st District working on that bill. I appreciate the senator from the 19th, the chairman of the Transportation Committee, working on this particular bill. As the chairman of another big committee, I know how difficult it is when you have controversial bills coming before you. And I feel like Senate Bill 330, which deals with the MARTA issue, just as the senator from the 56 talked about it, that it is very, very controversial. And the senator from the 56 did a very good job describing the intricacies of the bill and the tax impact and the effect on his constituents in Fulton County, but I want to talk a little bit about the political impact and the 56 senators in this room and why I think it's so important. Last year, as you know, we passed House Bill 170. And House Bill 170 was a huge transportation bill. It was probably the largest transportation bill since I've been down here at the state capitol. It had huge implications because it was over $1 billion. And I voted for it because if you ask me in Senate District 45 in Gwinnett County, what is the major issue in your district, I immediately say traffic mitigation, traffic resolution, and the fact that I pay $12 to get into the hot lane, and I want to get to Atlanta, but I look at the guy next to me, and the guy is sitting standstill. He didn't pay $12, but I paid $12. So traffic is truly the #1 issue in my district. But the reason this bill, Senate Bill 330, concerns me so much is the way that it has been lobbied, which the senator from the 56 talked about extensively, because the motivations of this bill is to get the minority caucus, which is very centric to the Atlanta metro area, to get them and then to pick off a few members of the majority party. But the problem is, there is not one senator that I know of, except the author of the bill, from Cobb County, from Gwinnett County, from Fulton County, or from DeKalb County, that favors this bill. And these are the senators that I call the perimeter senators, because our counties directly touch 285, the perimeter, but they have a regional approach that affects this particular bill. But what is interesting, not one of those senators, not one, in every major county that is almost or over 1 million people supports this bill. So the political strategy was to go to the hinterlands that I love, and I spend a lot of time in the hinterlands. I spent a lot of time in Bainbridge, Georgia, Valdosta, Georgia. I love the hinterlands. That's where I plan on retiring. But the strategy was to have the minority party and go down there and pick up a few more votes. But my question to you is, do you think it's fair that the minority party and these rural votes come up and have the ability to control the millions of people in Metro Atlanta that oppose this? And let me make one point very, very, very clear. It's not the fact that we oppose transit. We don't oppose transit. We oppose something that is not a regional plan. This is definitely not a regional plan. This affects 2 counties. We support regional plans. Many years ago, I supported the brain train, and you younger folks don't know what the brain train is. The brain train was using existing rail that went from Athens, went by Emory University, and came on downtown, and that was why it was called the brain train. We supported that years ago. If you would have had the brain train right now, we wouldn't be sitting here arguing about Senate Bill 330. So we're opposed. We're opposed mainly because it costs $200 million per mile. And what implication does that have on regionalization? It has the fact that you're putting the cart before the horse. You're putting the cart before the horse because you're precluding Gwinnett and Cobb, and we are truly the geese that laid the golden egg because we have the money, we have the AAA bond ratings, we have the disposable income. But is Cobb and Gwinnett ever going to go into that same indebtedness? I think it's 54 years or something ridiculous like that. It's not even going to be finished for 15 years. So what do you do in between those 15 years in Cobb and Gwinnett and North Fulton County while you're building these projects? You continue to suffocate. You continue to pay the $12 in the hotline. Is this a good idea? I say no, it's not a good idea. The other thing that was significant to me, because I'm not on transportation, but I went to that committee meeting, and you know what I found out? I found out that we're going to sit here and vote on Senate Bill 330, but we really don't even know what we're voting on, because the list of the projects in it can be changed. All of a sudden, we're voting on it. 6 months later, they can change the projects. In Gwinnett County, when we vote on a road referendum, the voters go to the polls. They know the exact interchange. They know the exact road. They know the exact intersection improvements. They know every single thing, and it never deviates and it never changes. This will have the ability to be able to change. This means you're writing a ticket for $8 billion, along with the $1.5 billion that you wrote last year, but $8 billion, a blank check, so that these people in the DOT or the tollway or whoever is the Swami that is writing everything, they have the ability to change it. That is wrong. That is wrong for the people that are sitting in here voting on it, because you really don't know what you're voting on. I agree with the senator from the 56th. This train needs to be slowed down. We're asking for regionalization. We're asking for the ARC to come together and come up with a regional plan. Work on a study committee this year. Let's do this all together. Let's get all of these perimeter senators together. Let's come up with solutions. This is not a solution, and I urge you, when it comes up for a vote, to vote against Senate Bill 330. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the second. Senator from the second.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we continue to pray for our good friend and colleague in the House, State Representative Bob Bryant, the last report was that he's doing better. He's not out of the woods yet, but he's doing better. But at this time, I'd like to recognize the students from St. Leo University, that's headquarters in Savannah, Georgia, with their professor, Dr. Melissa Harvey. And the St. Leo is a university of undergrads and grads that's studying human relations. And they're here at the Capitol to understand government and how government works for this entire state. Mr. President, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 40th for a point of personal privilege.
Time for my annual point of personal privilege performance, I guess. I've heard the gentleman from Fulton, the lady from Gwinnett, and I, of all people, I was on the Martock committee for a number of years. Think the world of Keith Parker, and certainly commend the senator from the 21st for his passion on this, because he and I both feel, and he's the one that coined the phrase, we need go ATL, we need a regional transportation system. So I empathize with him from that perspective. But I want you to understand what the problem is in the metro area. An area like, I'll take DeKalb. I represent all three of the counties that were talked about here. But DeKalb, this year, for the first time, we've got a ballot initiative to raise the sales tax by 1 penny and give some property tax relief as well. We never have had a lot of money for transportation in DeKalb because we've been paying for MARTA and we've been paying for Grady. And this is on the ballot this year. And the way I understand it, if we pass this, then we'll be at 8% sales tax. And here's the problem. Then what would happen next year, I believe this is how the bill now states it, we could have up to another penny, which would make 9% with half of it going to MARTA. I don't think that'll happen. I've talked to Lee May, the interim CEO, who will be gone. He's talking about maybe just a half penny for MARTA. But that would take us somewhere between 8.5% and 9% sales tax. Folks, I'll be partisan now, okay? That's not what we do. That's not who we are. If you don't believe me, look at the phenomenon called Donald Trump. And so I will say to you that this would be a tax increase where I live. Now, I sent out a mailing to about 10,000 people. About 80% of that was DeKalb, and then 10% Fulton and DeKalb, or Fulton and Gwinnett, excuse me. I got back 500 reply cards. 500 reply cards. That's pretty incredible for a direct mail. 5% return. Anybody would tell you that. And they're unequivocal. At least 60 to 65% of the people say, no more. And so, again, I too believe we need to have regional transportation. I too believe we need to have a plan. But I don't think this bill's the right way to go. And I feel very badly. I know how hard the senator from the 21st has worked on this. But this, again, my colleagues in the House and your colleagues that I know, and I know them pretty well after spending 12 years over there, they're praying this bill doesn't come over there because they don't want to see it either. With that, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st on a point of personal privilege.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I get up to talk about this important issue of transportation in Metro Atlanta. All of us have talked about a regional approach. Democrats and Republicans like the idea of having regional involvement and approach. We've argued for that and pushed for that and fought for that. But ladies and gentlemen, the only thing we have before us to move forward after years of the cries and desperate pleas of constituents to help us with the transportation problems in DeKalb and Fulton and Metro Atlanta is this option that 330 brings before us. I want you to know that each year we wait, the cost of building transit increases faster than the rate of inflation by a great deal. It is more and more expensive to get the right-of-ways, to build the transit, to do what we need to do. The longer we wait, the more problems we have. Plus, Atlanta is a non-attainment area. The DeKalb and Fulton residents have an obligation to this state to do things that cut the amount of pollution in our atmosphere, and doing transit is important for all of Georgia, not just for those counties. Thirdly, I'd like to say that one of the members of our body got up and talked about, representation of full minority or majority party people. There are Republicans like the 21st and others in Metro and around the state who think this is good for both parties. But most importantly, remember, DeKalb and Fulton are the actual population, more than 70% of it, when you combine the two, are represented by Democrats. So it's, of course, an important issue for Democrats to make sure that these transportation problems are taken care of. And quite frankly, I think some in the majority party may feel some concern that all these Democrats want this. But listen, we're just responding to the concerns of our constituents that are caught day after day in hours of traffic in a system that is stymieing growth, stymieing development, and hurting the lives and prosperity of many people. The Senator from 40th talked about the sales tax. Well, quite frankly, I am a person who's not a big fan of the sales tax. It's a regressive tax. Senator from 40th and I have debated that many times of whether we think, sales tax is good or income tax. It's a regressive tax. I don't like it. But I'm willing to move forward because it's going to cost more money down the line if we don't do something now. And second of all, the Senator from the 40th is also one of the people who helped pass an assessment freeze until you sell the house in DeKalb County so they don't get millions of dollars from property tax that they would have otherwise. He's also a guy who helped make it possible for Brookhaven and Dunwoody to get incorporated, which cost the county millions of dollars. We have tremendous infrastructure needs in DeKalb County, I know. And so I just want you each to look at the bill on its merits and not the hyperbole. You all do know that it is important that we move forward with transit, and it is important that we do so quickly. And unless there is an alternative plan brought before this body to look at, then this deserves a fair and full look. Thank you very much. I'll yield the well.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 9th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise this morning as well to speak on
the exciting item of transit. Just because you have only one option before you, if it's the wrong option, it doesn't mean you should take it on. The bill proposed this session is not a regional solution. It ties up billions of dollars for decades, and it leaves the needs of the I-85, 316 corridor, and South Gwinnett unmet. Billions of dollars for decades. I think if you are a proponent for regional transportation plan, I believe this is the wrong road to go down. I think it will end the discussion for decades. Thank you. I yield the well.
Who? Senator from the 8th. Senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to invite everyone down to the depot tonight. This is the Valdosta Lowndes County Day at the Capitol. We've had VSU up here. We got the chamber having the bird supper, so come on down and get you a big blade of quail. Promise you there won't be no bird shot at it, mess up a tooth.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 39th.
Mr. President, members of the Senate, I rise on a point of personal privilege to say a couple of things about what appears to be the issue of the day. I believe it was the senator from the 53rd who first authored a bill to allow for local governments to come together in what I call local T-SPLOS. I believe the senator from the 53rd authored that bill to do local T-SPLOS, governments coming together. He says he did. I authored the bill after that, a bill so cooperating governments could come together on issues of regional taxation for transportation/transit issues. And as a matter of fact, if y'all voted for, I believe it was for HB 170 last year, either in that bill or a standalone bill, that same concept was implemented in those bills. Local governments coming together to ask their voters to vote to fund transportation and transit. I think all of the people who have come to this well to talk about transportation/transit in the form of Senate Bill 330 all voted for that bill. And now they're taking exception when it's being implemented. They didn't have a problem with it then, but they got a problem with it now. I understand something else is afoot. But the bottom line is, and I'm, if for those of you who have heard my conversations on 330, Senate Bill 330, I have some issues. But the debate ought to be on what? The issues. I think that all of the counties in the region ought to be in a mass transit system. Is that what, when I hear regionalism, people suggest regionalism, is that what they're talking about? The taxpayers of Fulton and DeKalb County may get a chance or may not get a chance to vote on this, but don't you think they ought to have the opportunity? I'm very unclear as to where we're going on this debate. You know, but the senator from the 41st is correct. And, you know, and I heard about the $220 million, $220,000 of money being spent on lobbyists. You know, the fact of the matter is, if I am to listen to the reports and read the newspaper, this expansion would lead to $8 billion. $8 billion of economic development. That's a pretty good trade-off. And, you know, and we have a very diverse group, MARTA does, of its lobbyists. There's a very diverse group politically and otherwise, Republican and Democrat lobbyists lobbying for this bill. So, you know, if we're going to debate the issues, let's debate the issues and not some ancillary stuff going on. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the well.
We have a consent calendar of privileged resolutions that's before you. Is there objection? Without objection, the consent calendar of privileged resolutions are therefore adopted. Any senator wishing to withdraw and commit? I think there have been a couple. Senator from the 32nd is recognized.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent that SR 756 be withdrawn from the Committee on Joint Revenue Structure and be committed to the Committee on Finance.
Read the caption.
Senate Resolution 756 by Senator Hill of 32nd and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide for prioritized funding requirements regarding certain appropriations acts, to provide for procedures, conditions, and limitations, to provide for the authority of the General Assembly with respect to the foregoing, to provide for the submission of this amendment for ratification or rejection and for other purposes.
Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will rest in the Finance Committee. Chair recognizes Senator from the 43rd.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent for Senate Bill 422 to be withdrawn from the Committee on SLOGO and be recommitted to the Committee on Public Safety.
422, read the caption.
Senate Bill 422 by Senator Vanessa of the 43rd and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Title 8 of the OCG relating to buildings and housing so as to provide for legislative findings, to provide for definition, to provide that it shall be unlawful for any person who owns, controls, or is a responsible agent of a vacant structure to maintain, cause, or permit the maintenance of the vacant structure in a neglected condition, and that such neglected vacant structure shall constitute a public nuisance and for other purposes.
The senator is asking to remove it from SLOGO General and put it in Public Safety. Is there, I think the chairmen are all in agreement. Is there objection? Without objection, the bill will rest in Public Safety. Any other motions to withdraw or commit? We are now at the local consent calendar. Mr. Secretary, are there any filed objections on any of the bills on the local consent calendar?
Mr. President, there are no objections filed in the Secretary's office.
Is there objection to agree and report of committees on the state and local governmental operations which failed to pass the bill? Chairs none. Report of committees agreed to. All those in favor of the local consent calendar will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary, unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51, the nays are 0, and these bills having received requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Moving on to the general calendar now, Secretary will read S.R. 558.
Senate Resolution 558 by Senator Mullis to the 53rd and others, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide that the proceeds of excise taxes on the sale of fireworks in the state be dedicated to the funding of trauma care, fire services, burn treatment, and local public safety purposes in the state of Georgia, to provide that such funds shall not lapse, to provide for related matters, to provide for the submission of this amendment for ratification or rejection and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass by substitute, respectively submitted by Senator Harper the 7th. Mr. President, the Senate Public Safety Committee offers the following substitute to Senate Resolution 558, a resolution proposing an amendment to the Constitution so as to provide that the proceeds of excise taxes on the sale of fireworks or consumer fireworks in the state be dedicated to the funding of trauma care, fire services, and local public safety purposes in the state of Georgia, to provide that such funds shall not lapse, to provide for related matters, to provide for the submission of this amendment for ratification or rejection and for other purposes. Mr. President, that completes the order.
It's your honor.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 53rd present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, we're talking about fireworks today, and we're not talking about the ones where you light and they go up and they go boom. We're not talking about that bill. We're talking about a constitutional amendment to allow people to see if they want to dedicate the revenues from Are you awake? Do you hear me now? Are you watching? Are you paying attention? Okay, just want to make sure, Mr. President, if they're watching, you know. But this is to allow the voters of the state to dedicate the revenue from fireworks to important things like trauma, fire services, and for the local authorities for public safety. That's all this does. The question says, shall the Constitution of Georgia be amended so as to provide that the proceeds of excise taxes on fireworks or the sale of fireworks or consumer fireworks be dedicated to the funding of trauma care, firefighters' equipment and training, and for local public safety purposes. That's all it does. There are no taxes in this bill. It's for the existing taxes already on fireworks. Mr. President, I would appreciate everybody's support, and I yield the well unless there are questions.
There are no questions, Senator. Questions on the adoption of the committee substitute. Is there objection? Without objection, committee substitute is adopted. Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection? Agree on the report of committee which favor pass the bill. Chairs none. Report of committee is agreed to. All those in favor of the bill vote aye. Those opposed no. Secretary unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 52, the nays are 2, and this bill having received requisite constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary will read Senate Bill 350.
Senate Bill 350 by Senator Mullis of the 53rd and others, a bill to be entitled and act to amend Article 7 of Chapter 13 of Title 48 of the OCG relating to taxation of consumer fireworks so as to dedicate monies collected from the excise tax and sale of consumer fireworks for trauma care, fire services, and local public safety purposes and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Public Safety recommends that this bill do pass. Respectfully submitted by Senator Harper the 7th.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 53rd again.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the Senate, I hurt my hand a minute ago, so I can't give you that great example again about fireworks. But I hope you're paying attention. Thank you for your help. This bill is actually the nuts and bolts of the last bill. This is what sets the legislation into effect to make the constitutional amendment work. As I meant to say earlier, that the Children's Hospital endorses both of these bills too, because they want to help find funding for trauma. And of course, we're all for fire services and let the local jurisdiction for public safety. So this is the nuts and bolts that puts together the enabling legislation for the constitutional amendment. Mr. President, I'd be glad to answer any questions, and I appreciate your favorable consent on this bill, and I yield the well. Any questions?
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is the objection granted, report of committee which failed pass the bill? Chairs none, report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put, or the objections? Chairs none, main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Question is on. Pass the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the pass of the bill, the yeas again are 52 and the nays again are 2. This bill having received constitutional majority is therefore adopted. Secretary will read Senate Bill 312.
Senate Bill 312 by Senator Bethel of the 54th and others, a bill to be entitled an act to amend Part 7 of Article 7 of Chapter 3 of Title 20 of the OCGA relating to Hope scholarships and grants so as to revise the definition to establish minimum Hope award amounts, to provide for related matters, to provide for effective date, to repeal conflicting laws, and for other purposes. Mr. President, the Senate Committee on Higher Education recommends that this bill do pass, respectfully submitted by Senator Miller of the 40th.
Chair recognizes the senator from the 54th present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senators, I bring before you Senate Bill 312, which I believe is an opportunity for us to continue to fulfill the dual promise of the Hope Scholarship Program in Georgia, at the same time manage our fiscal responsibility in a way that's consistent with our principles. Senate Bill 312 would provide that all scholarships for Hope recipients would be 100% for those whose tuition is $2,000 or less per semester. If you look on the back of the fiscal impact statement that's in your folder, that is your state college cohort at the university system, as well as all technical college system schools. So you can see that that's all the technical college schools. It's Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College, ABAC, Darton State College of Coastal Georgia, Georgia Perimeter College, Gordon State College, Middle Georgia College, South Georgia College, Dalton State College, Georgia Highlands College, East Georgia State College, Bainbridge College, Atlanta Metropolitan College, Georgia Gwinnett College, and the University of North Georgia with respect to its two-year programs. All of those institutions today would be in a posture where their students who were Hope Scholar recipients would receive a 100% tuition I will point out the fiscal impact may be slightly less than projected because they took into account an anticipated increase in tuition. We are happy to learn that the regents are not going to pass on a tuition increase or not planning on a tuition increase for next year, so it may be slightly lower than what's marked here. And remind you again that these are not new dollars, these are lottery-funded proceed dollars. Mr. President, I would ask for favorable consideration. I will certainly yield for questions if there are any.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 41st for a question.
Would Senator yield?
I yield to the leader.
Do you think it would endanger your bill if I endorsed it?
Senator, I think this is something that all Georgians can agree on. So
Thank you,
I
Senator.
appreciate your support.
Would you further yield?
I yield.
Is it true that actually, although there's no tuition rate next year, there might be increased enrollment in these schools by a few people who have felt they couldn't go to school because it wasn't the full amount, and now you're trying to make it the full amount?
Senator, you bring up an excellent point. We all know that we don't engage in what they call dynamic scoring at the fiscal note level, but certainly if we encourage students to attend these schools because they're more affordable, that actually would yield a savings to us because they would be attending a more manageable school from our standpoint economically as opposed to a higher cost, even though it might be at the percentage level.
Would the Senator further yield?
I do yield.
So your bill, if tuition goes up at these colleges on this list, your amount would go up and they would always meet the
No,
minimum?
Senator. I've prepared it specifically with a specific dollar number, in part to make sure that we have fiscal accountability. It's my personal belief that the moral hazard associated with just a straight award encourages the inflation of tuition.
Senator, would you further yield?
I yield.
Is there any concern on your part that the Board of Regents, which can pick different tuition increases at different facilities, would see this as another little pot of money and actually, not this coming year, but at some point in the future, figure you put a little extra money in for them, they increase tuition at these schools a little more than the University of Georgia's or Georgia Tech's?
Senator, for two reasons, I don't think. First, I think the first issue I would say is the cost structure of these schools does not support that. The second is that the percentage of students at these schools who are Hope Scholars are actually relatively small relative to the other schools, and the balance of the student bodies demand their ability, their price elasticity, if you will, for an increase. They're not Hope Scholars, so they can't afford it, and it would. I don't think the regents are going to say we're going to raise it and lose students. That's not a winning proposition for anyone.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 28th for a question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the Senator yield?
I certainly yield.
I appreciate the intent of the legislation, but could you answer for me what mechanism is in place to limit the upper end of this? As I read it, it says the scholarship shall not be less than. So it seems that you put in place a floor without a ceiling. So what mechanisms exist to limit that?
Thank you, Senator. It's a good question. For those of us that were here, we lived 6 years ago the restructuring of the Hope Scholarship. Today, Zell Miller scholars receive 100% reimbursement. Hope Scholars, by definition, receive a percentage tuition reimbursement. This is an exception to that model, and we certainly don't have the whole code section related to Hope Scholarship in front of us, but that is the way it works today. So this is saying that award that is right now based on a percentage model shall not be less than 100% if it's for a tuition equal or under $2,000 a semester. I yield.
For another question. But there doesn't seem to be a mechanism to provide any limit to that. I mean, it says it shall not be less than. It doesn't say
Senator,
in the following language that it would up to 100%.
Okay, maybe I've missed your question. If you turn to page lines 31 through 33, this is where the current code is being amended to make it clear that no award can ever exceed the actual tuition.
I recognize that, and that's a good limit, but what's to limit the institutions from raising the tuition
as the senator from the 40,
past
beyond
2000?
but beyond that, there's no
Well,
mechanism.
But that's the world they live in today. The mechanism that would encourage them is the actual award, being able to be identified as a 100% HOPE covered institution should create an incentive, because once you pass that threshold of 2,000, then you would no longer be in the cohort of schools that has a 100% award.
With the language that said shall not be more than, wouldn't that work also?
No, sir, because there are several students. This is why I've considered a fiscally responsible bill, too. There are several students in Georgia receiving HOPE scholarships well in excess of $2,000. Students attending the flagships are getting $3,400 a semester and up. Zell Miller scholars, of course, are getting more than that. But the HOPE scholarship right now at our flagship institutions is $3,400. I can't remember. It's over $3,400, and I apologize, I don't have the balance line of that.
Thank you, Senator.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 45th.
Mr. Chairman, would you please yield?
I yield to the chair.
Senator, isn't it true that not every student who has dreams of going to college can go to the University of Georgia or to Georgia Tech, and that those dreams oftentimes lead to a lot of dismay? Is that not true?
That is true, Senator.
Is it also not true that this General Assembly and the people in this building have invested a lot of money over the years in community colleges in small towns that offer access to a college education, that these people could fulfill their dreams even though not at the University of Georgia? Is that not true?
Senator, you're entirely correct.
Chair recognizes Senator from the 34th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Yield.
I yield.
Senator, can you give me a list, or is there a list of some of those colleges where the students would be attending? And thank you for bringing this.
My pleasure. If you look on the back page of the fiscal impact, those are all the schools. So it's all the technical college system schools. And again, I want to emphasize, this is not the HOPE grant. So we have a small cohort of students that are HOPE scholarship recipients at the technical college. There is a bill moving through this General Assembly dealing with the HOPE grant, but I just want to be clear so that everybody understands this is just those students who are HOPE scholars at the technical college. And then all of the schools that you see listed there below on that second page of the fiscal impact.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
There are no further questions, Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. I ask your favorable consideration. I yield the will.
Does any other senator wish to speak for or against the bill? Is there objection granted? Report of committee which favor pass the bill. Chairs none. Report of committee is agreed to. Shall the main question be now put? Are there any objections? Chairs none. Main question is ordered. Shall this bill now pass? Questions on the pass of the bill. All those in favor of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed, no. Secretary will unlock the machine. On the passage of the bill, the yeas are 51 and the nays are 4. And this bill, having received requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Chair recognizes the majority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the Senate stand adjourned until 10 a.m. on Thursday, February 25th.
Read the announcements.
Rules will be held upon adjournment in 450 Capitol, Regulated Industries and Utilities at 1 and 310 CLOB, Public Safety at 1 and 125 Capitol, Education and Youth at 1 p.m. and 307 CLOB, Interstate Cooperation at 2 p.m. and 123 Capitol, Health and Human Services at 2 p.m. and 450 Capitol, Appropriations Vehicle Subcommittee at 2:30 and 341 Capitol, Reappropriate and Redistricting at 3 and 310 CLOB, Higher Education at 3 and 307 CLOB, Science and Technology at 3 and 310 CLOB, State Institutions and Property at 3 in the MES, Appropriations General Government Subcommittee at 3:30 and 341 Capitol, Rules Subcommittee at 3:30 and 125 Capitol, Special Judiciary at 4 p.m. and 125 Capitol, Economic Development and Tourism at 4 p.m. and 310 CLOB, Finance at 4 p.m. in the MES. Mr. President, that completes the announcements.
Lot of committee work to be done, so please try to make sure you're attending all of the committees in order to get a quorum. The majority leader has moved that we stand adjourned until 10 a.m. Thursday, February 25th, 2016. All of those in favor will say aye. All those opposed, no. The ayes clearly have it. We stand adjourned.